Hello everyone, Kras here. So many people thought that after doing internships in California and in Amazon in London, I will just finish university and go back into, for example, Amazon or continue working in one of these companies. And so this is why I wanted to make this video, to sort of give you a bit more context around why I'm actually not applying for a graduate job and why I'm not going into a job as a whole, what my plans will be, what I actually want to do, and why I'm basically not going to be working, and what I'm going to be doing, why I'm going to be doing that. Now, full-on disclaimer, by the way, this video is not meant to be an advice on what you should do with your career or your life. I'm just saying how I feel about it. I do think this could be a lot of a personality thing as well. I've always wanted to build my own life and have control over the things I'm doing. And I also care a lot about just being able to use my life to bring a positive difference in the world and work on things that have a large impact, which are just things that I find harder to achieve in a company. Another thing is I was able to make money through investing, a video that I'll put here in the cards, which actually allows me to take a year off just to sort of try things like this YouTube channel, try my startup that I'm trying to build. And this is really something that I feel passionate about. Like, me talking to you right now and making these videos is something that I genuinely enjoy, because I feel like the amount of impact I could have if this video reaches many people is far larger than I would have if I'm on an entry-level job in a company, right? And the consequential impact of me growing a YouTube channel, for example, like, it could be such a powerful tool to then work on social causes and bring people together to achieve things. And for me, it's very, very clear that this is something I value and that this is something worthwhile. Now, this is not to say that I will never go back and get a job. There are certain things that I could benefit from, like, for example, I do want to learn to be a software engineer, and I think this is something that I lacked in terms of my previous internships. I think that technical skills is definitely something I could have a clear benefit of going into a job and working for a little bit. But even so, I still want to take a bit of time off. I want to try a few things. Now, on top of this context and everything I said so far, I have 4 particular reasons that made me decide not to go into a graduate job, and so I'm going to go over these reasons now. The first reason for me was compensation. A lot of the well-paid jobs in London, if you're a software engineer at a big tech company like Amazon, would be 35,000. And although this is a good amount of money for someone who is just starting, I just felt that this is not that much if you wanted to buy a nice house, for example. And of course, this is going to progress over time in terms of salary, but I just felt that a year of my time, or I spent 5 hours a week, 5 days a week, over 8 hours a day, basically most of my time awake on a job, is not enough money. Like, I didn't feel like 35,000 represents 1 year of my labor and worth. And at the same time, I felt like if you can actually do a startup that provides value to people, it is not as difficult to actually make, let's say, £1 million or dollars, right? Like, all you need to do is basically, and I'm not saying this as if it's something simple or as if I've done it before, but it seems more achievable to save up 1 million or to make 1 million than you can ever achieve by working a job, right? So, like, in a startup, you need to make a product that you can sell to 10,000 people for $100, and that's already $1 million. And I'm not saying this is something easy to do, but it seems far more achievable and far more realistic in terms of which of the 2 options can make it possible for me to achieve $1 million, for example. And the reason I care about money is not because I want to chill on a beach or buy a nice house at some point, but because money is what actually gives you a stronger voice in the world. If you have the money to create the businesses that you want, if you have the money to invest in changes that you want to see in the world, this is where you can make a really big difference, right? And one of the people that made me realize this is actually Elon Musk, where he had the capital to start SpaceX, right? Like no investor would have invested in SpaceX, but it was something he believed in. And because he had PayPal, because he was able to sell his shares of PayPal and have the money to launch SpaceX and even have the money to fund Tesla, which was also a very questionable company for investors, right? Like high risk. He would perhaps never even have the shot of starting these companies, right? But because he had large capital, this is what made it possible for him to make a difference in the world and actually have an impact, right? And so capital is super important if you actually want to make a difference. And this is why I feel that if I have a standard job, there is a very small roof and a very tight roof to what you can achieve. Like even if you're working on a certain position in a company, you're just helping grind a really big wheel of a large machine that is already headed somewhere, right? And if it's something you believe in, then it might be great. Like if you strongly believe in the mission of this company, then maybe that works. But I just feel like there are things that I believe in, that I want to take ownership of, that I want to like have the money to change within the world. Like to name a few, I think there is still a really big social inequality gap, and this is something that needs to be solved. And I would like to be able to have the money to solve this, right? Like there are environmental problems, and I would like to have the money to start my own company or to invest in startups that I believe in within this area, right? Like the more money you have, basically, the more you can make in the world. And this is really important point for me in making this decision. Now the next point is actually learning. I just feel that in terms of learning, this is again something that, because I did a few internships and roughly worked around 2 years in internships, I feel like the learnings that I got from these 3 different companies already were as valuable as, let's say, going to a graduate job. And so I already have a good sense of what it's like working in a company, how a company functions. I know the difference between a company with a strong culture of innovation and people who are hardworking versus a company that really doesn't have that strong of a culture. I see the differences in these companies, and I just feel like I've experienced, I'm not saying I've experienced everything, but I think I've experienced a sufficient amount for me to feel like I'm not missing out on not going for a job in terms of learning. And I think there are so many other things that I can learn in that next year where I want to take it off and I want to do my own things in terms of starting my own business, and so many challenges that could come through in regards to that. And although I think there is a benefit, like maybe at some point I want to go for a software engineering role, and I think I could learn a lot from that. I think maybe now I still want to actually take time off anyway. I want to try other things. And maybe if I decide I want to learn more software engineering through a company instead of learning it on my own, then I can always make that shift, hopefully, and that should be fine. Another point which I implied a few times already is I care a lot about making an impact. And this is why I want to go back to California. I want to become a better engineer. This is why I want to become better at doing startups and just stay in this space where I feel like I want to gain as many relevant things that can help me make a big difference in the world. And I just think that working in a job just doesn't have the opportunity for me to make this big impact, as I already said. Number 4, as I already said, this is just something very internal, but I like independence and I like control. It's just who I am, and it's just how I enjoy to do my work. Like I like owning my project, I like owning the things I do, I like deciding what I should do and then doing it. And I just dislike someone else controlling my actions. And it just feels natural for me to a large extent to go down this route and try to build something of my own, because I know this is what would make me truly happy. And the closest alternative that I was able to come to in terms of work was being a project manager, which is something I actually genuinely enjoy. But at this point, like, I would prefer trying to build something of my own, just because I think there's also so much learnings that come along with that. So that actually sums up all of my reasons. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, whether you relate to some of these things, what your plans are, and remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.